But I thought it would be interesting just to look at all the difficult weather for flying today. Currently, we have a cold front that is out to the west here. And this was approximately a 12Z. What I want you to notice is a couple lows up here, but look at the whole area that's outlooked for severe weather back here. We know that we have counterclockwise circulations around the low at the surface. So all of this area is being pulled in with tremendous moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. There's actually blizzards going on back in the Dakotas right now with this low. If you look at the mesoscale precipitation discussion, which is on here, you can see extremely heavy rain going over the same areas. So to say there's a lot going on today would be an understatement. To the east, we have a warm front moving north. So if you project this out into the future, you can see well occluded low up here, and the front pushes all the way to West Virginia by tomorrow morning. So in the process of that, what happens today? So if there's lots of potential issues for a pilot in the Midwest today, and across some of the parts of the northern plains. So if you're flying today, SPC says watch out for severe weather. They even have marginal outlook for some possible thunderstorms out in the Pacific Northwest and into Idaho. So that front we saw pushing cold air, and I mean it is cold air. Temperatures are in the teens to single digits across Montana and into North Dakota, is giving all kind of hassles. You think about it, high to the north, winds are upsloping in this area due to topography. We're getting the potential for some thunderstorms. It is springtime. It's a little bit warmer than it would be in the wintertime. So what about in the Midwest and South? Well, we have moderate risk. So what does moderate risk mean? Well, one of the things you can do with this chart, this is just today's reports of severe weather. Notice we already have one wind report and 4 hail reports today. And with this chart, you can actually click on it. Let me go back here a second. And we'll just get the convective outlooks. This convective outlook is valid until this afternoon. Here is what's interesting. You can look at which type of weather. There are 3 possible severe weather scenarios. We have tornadoes, winds, and hail. Notice how they kind of line up in a little bit different areas. Thunderstorms, as we've learned, develop a little differently depending on wind shear, depending on instability, or the two combined, even depending on the lift that they have. So the best tornado chances, which are up over 15% in a small area, are down across Arkansas, Tennessee, not into Louisiana, almost into Louisiana, and then across to Mississippi. So if you were to move to wind, they spread out and actually expand northward. So the most shear is obviously to the south, and the best instability is to the south. That's why the tornado threat's higher down there. Hail, on the other hand, is well south. And these will be where the tallest thunderstorms are. So if you're a pilot thinking about it, if you're coming across this area, you're going to get thunderstorms that are well up, overshooting tops, which are going to go into the stratosphere. So you're probably talking tops here over 50,000 feet sometimes. I don't think too many planes are going to be flying over top of this area later today. So there's going to be a lot of rerouting going on just based on thunderstorms alone. Another thing, you have that thunderstorms, you probably have a pretty strong jet stream, and we do. Winds over 100 knots coming through that area. Almost due south-southwest winds. Notice the yellow indicates divergence. And so if you wanted to make a flight from Dallas to Minnesota today, you have a pretty fast route. Not a very pleasant route as far as turbulence goes because you're on the edge of the jet stream, but you'd have a pretty fast route. However, or coming in from Seattle into Dallas-Fort Worth again would be another one, or Phoenix down that way, of over 100 knots of wind. So yeah, you're flying along the jet there, but you're going to have a lot of turbulence from that. So that's another issue. There's going to be a lot of turbulence out there today. So just looking currently at the actual surface weather map right now, very strong low up here, 997 millibars, lots of wind, especially on the west side coming down because the pressure gradient is very strong. So if you're going into the Dakotas or Montana today, or even into parts of the eastern parts of Iowa there's pretty strong wind blowing. Idaho, excuse me. And notice the temperature difference here. North of the front, temperatures are in the 30s. South of it, temperatures are in the 60s. Even across this front, temperatures here are 31 degrees, here 62. Dew points on this side, 66, 70. Very moist air coming up here, holding a tremendous amount of moisture here. Notice along the front the convergence. We have winds south, winds northwest, so there's a very strong convergence along that front as well. And notice down here where the tornado threat is, we have some east or southeast winds moving into this weak little low right here. Think of it wind shear wise. Here you have southwest, so your wind shear is not as good as it would be further south. Finally, just looking at some soundings, here's Chicago, or close to Chicago, very moist all the way up. But if you're raising that moist parcel, you're unstable. And that's this morning. Say I add a little bit of heating, you're going to be more unstable. Well, let's look down here. Don't really have Memphis today for some reason, but we'll see if we can get something. Little Rock. Okay, notice here how steep the temperature drops very quickly. If you were to lift an air parcel from around 850 millibars, and that air parcel was saturated, which is going to happen later today, notice the instability. It goes all the way up to 12 kilometers without any problems. As a matter of fact, pretty deep. And that is right now. Add a little bit of heat in this area, and maybe we're lifting it over here instead, which would even bring it higher and stronger. The other thing, we have extremely strong winds. Look at these winds at the southwest here of 75 knots. If you're taking off or landing down here, you might have some issues with a little bit of wind shear there. Winds are south at the surface, but very quickly, within about 1 kilometer, increase to 75 knots. So you might want to be thinking about wind shear. But that's also great as far as instability goes, as far as wind shear goes for a thunderstorm, especially low-level wind shear, which is why the probability of tornadoes is higher down south. Finally, just looking at GOES satellite images, we can see the lightning superimposed, so you already have thunderstorms going on out in here and coming up into this area. What I wanted you to notice is all this open area here. Not a lot of clouds at the moment. Every hour you get have sunshine in that area is increasing the potential for severe weather because it's increasing the temperature. The higher the temperature at the surface, the more instability, the worse it's going to be. And notice up in the north where the big low is, all the clouds that have come down around that low, circulating around it here. So lots of low IFR, depending on topography too, to point out here, and how it's coming in. You could look at different temperature curves to see how high the tops are out here. If I wanted, for example, to look at how high currently the tops are, I kind of like an infrared satellite with long wave, clean long wave radiation, which is going to just pick up the very highest tops. It's going to show me those right now. So when it comes up here, you can see we have a series of high tops out here along this area, not as high when you go further north where the colder air is. Again, the instability is not as great. So all this is telling you, though, that there's a lot of moisture out here, a lot of lift, tremendous vertical motion enhancement along the front, and enhancement aloft. Great wind shear, helping keep the thunderstorms going. It's going to keep inflows into these thunderstorms lasting for hours. And finally, we can look at all of this and see what numerical models think. This is a very high resolution numerical model, kind of down where we're wanting to look at as far as severe weather goes and potential for some extra thunderstorms. Notice all the activity, and this is fairly early in the morning, you think about it. Here's barely 1 o'clock, here's 2, now it's 3. Notice, if you're flying in here, you're dealing with 1 squall line, 2 squall lines, another area out ahead of an earlier squall line. And then it forms into one monster squall line with pretty much probably have loops in it and all. So there is going to be tremendous delays out in that area, tremendous issues with thunderstorms today. So, and we're talking this week about IFR. Well, obviously along and near these thunderstorms, and up north in the snow area, a lot of IFR. As far as clouds, visibility, precipitation causing it. Notice even up here, across parts of Mississippi, Missouri, and Iowa, you have even some snow mixed in today. So, hope you think about all these potential issues just from one significant springtime storm. So, if you have any questions about what these issues can do and what, relating to what you're learning this week and the weeks, let me know.